Howdy crew, today I'm going over why the welding rig company is going to be an S corporation and why it's not going to be other types of business entities right after this. As I mentioned, the welding rig company is going to be an S corporation, and I'm going to go over why I chose that. So there's three main different business entities that I could have gone with, excluding C corporations from this mix, because I didn't consider that at all. The one that I knocked off the list out of sole proprietor, LLC, or S Corp, the one I knocked off first was sole proprietor, because welding rig, it's risky. Some things can go wrong, whether it's my fault or not. And if someone were to sue the company over something that went wrong, whether it's my fault or not, the person suing the company can then go on to my personal assets. So what that means for y'all out there, sole proprietorship, at least for here in the United States, I know we have an international following on this channel. We got folks from Canada, the UK, Australia, some other places as well as all across the United States. But for here in the US, that's where I've been doing my research, specifically for California laws, because I do live in Los Angeles. For sole proprietor, if someone were to sue the company, then just say there's $1 million insurance policy for being sued for either negligence or general liability, and something that's damaged is $5 million, they can then roll that over to my personal assets. And what that means is if y'all have a car that's your personal asset, it gets taken. You have a house, whatever the balance is that they need or all of it, that gets taken. Cash in the bank, it's gone. Anything you own is gone. And I don't know about y'all, but I want to risk that. That's not something I want to be fiddling around with. So it really narrowed down to LLC, which is limited liability company, or an S corporation, which is a self corporation. It's not to where it's some huge company yet. It has other little regulations, which I'll go into in a minute. But an LLC is limited liability, same as S Corp. They're both limited liability, to where just say, for some reason, something burned down. I'm welding on something and something goes wrong. It's not negligence, but it's just something went wrong and they're suing the company. They can sue the heck out of the company. Just say the company's only worth X amount of money. I'm throwing out a number, $200,000. They can sue the company to the hilt and back and take everything, even if they're suing for $5 million, but they're only going to get whatever's in the company. Anything I own personally that's not in the company, they can't touch. It's still mine because it's limited liability. Think of big corporations, just say 3M, for any of the vets out there that had hearing issues with the earplugs that weren't working right. The CEO, the board of directors, none of those officers in the company had to pay anything out of their own pocket. It was the company being sued. It's a corporation. Same thing with limited liability. It works similar to that, even though it's not a corporation. I'm just throwing out an example. That way, it's not the board of directors, the shareholders, whoever is owning the company. They're not going to be paying out of their own pocket. If any of y'all own stocks, just say the company, whatever company you own, just say you own Walmart, whatever, anything that's on the publicly traded exchange, and they get sued from whoever, and they're getting money taken from them. It's not coming out of your pocket because you're not liable for it. It's a corporation. It's limited liability. It's not going to the owners of the company, which you'd be owner if you own equity in it as a shareholder. Me, I want to own 100% of the company. I'm not going for a C corporation to sell off stock. I do own stock because the company's being formed. It is a S Corp. LLC, it's regulations. I didn't really get into the ownership part of it because I know it'd be me owning 100% of it. I'm not going to sell parts of it to this person trying to raise funds. I'm going into it just me. I'm not trying to get contractors to buy part of it or anything like that. LLC, S Corp, they sue the corporation or the LLC, and if they take everything, they take everything, but whatever I have, it stays mine in my personal assets. So money, if y'all have cars, if y'all have houses, anything like that, that stays yours. Now, if negligence is involved, you do something really stupid, you purposely do something wrong, or you do something that's really against code and you knew better, whatever that is in negligence terms that you can think of, then they can come on personal assets. But as long as you're following the codes, you should be good. They can't touch personal assets. That's why it's limited liability. LLCs cost less to form. S Corps cost more. And I'm going to go on why I paid for the S Corp. LLCs, you do have to pay self-employment tax, but you don't pay Social Security or Medicare tax. And some of y'all may think, well, shoot, you don't have to pay the Social Security or Medicare tax and that stuff. That's great. Me thinking about later down the line, I would rather pay the Social Security tax now and just say I want to retire, make good money with the welding rig, retire somewhat early, and have all the Social Security for later. That way it's less having to work on now. It just depends on what you want. I'm doing what I believe works best for me. I believe I made the best decisions for myself in my situation, but for you, that could be completely different. And for those y'all that are in Canada, UK, Australia, I have no clue what any of y'all's laws are like. I don't know if there's extra types of business entities there that are in between LLC and S Corp. I don't know what kind of taxes y'all pay. The government, doesn't matter where you live, the government's going to want their money. So you just have to figure out what works best for you, which way you can keep the most money for yourself, because that's why we do this. We do this to make money. We don't do this just to give money away. At least that's not why I do it. Y'all may be different, but I'm doing this to make money, not to give it away. Or have it taken from me, if you want to put that in air quotes. So again, the LLC versus S Corp, there's more taxes associated with the S Corp than with the LLC. But I will be paying the Social Security tax, which later down the line will be giving me more money. Also, for the LLC, you do pay the self-employment tax. That's not really going to help you down the line with Social Security. The regulations are a little bit murkier on LLCs, management. It's not as highly regulated as S Corp. S Corp, you have to treat it as a corporation. It's just like Walmart, Costco, any of the big corporations y'all can think of in the welding industry, that the books have to be precise. You buy something, you have to write it down. You sell something, you have to write it down. All your transactions, you got to write it down. And some folks try and cut corners. Legally, you got to say that you don't try and ever cut any corners. So there you go. I'm not here to provide legal advice. I'm not trying to here to help everyone cut corners, because you're not supposed to do that. So write everything down. Whatever you make, you put it on there. If y'all do something otherwise, I didn't say to do that. But just make sure you know it's a lot more regulated. You can't just throw your receipts in a barrel and not worry about it for years. You can't just not mind the books. I do have a history in somewhat white-collar fields dealing with numbers. I'm not going to go into that too much right now. It's just somewhat accounting, stocks, all that stuff. I do have a history in that as well. So that does help me out. That's why it wasn't very scary to go into the S Corp area compared to other folks who would rather just do an LLC, which I completely understand. It's not the easiest stuff. It's not something you just learn on a dime. But I already had some experience with it. I've done quite a bit with that before, and I just figured it'd be easier for me to do that instead of just doing an LLC. That way I can protect myself more, make more money for myself down the road. And if there's anything else I can think about the S Corp that's beneficial later, I will put that in there. But you do actually have to create a stock for yourself. And again, I do have history in accounting and stocks in white-collar field, other than just little stuff. So I do have a history of what it means to do stuff like that, cost basis, all that, how it changes as the company changes. And so I did have to create a stock. When going through LegalZoom, I did have to create a stock for the company, the corporation. It's not an LLC, so there's actual stock to the company. And if the company gets bigger, your stock gets bigger. You have to keep track of it. You keep a set of books for your regular accounting and another set of books for what the company's actually worth. Because just say you want to sell later, you might have no clue what your company's worth. Then you got to go through all kinds of paperwork just to figure out what your company's worth, all that stuff. And I'm just going to keep an extra set of books. It's super easy from what I've been able to do with it, and just keep track of everything. But I do have some history with that, so it does make it easier for me. It's just something that I've done before, and it's not as hard as if I was going into this blindly. If I was going into it blindly, it would be much harder. So I do want to have that out there for y'all. If y'all don't know about stocks or accounting, it is going to be tougher road to hoe. on the S Corp road. If you have good accountants, they could probably do all that. They could just do all that easy peasy. It won't be any trouble for a CPA by any means. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax consultant or anything like that, but I do a lot of my own stuff as well. So I would recommend that y'all do your research. Don't take it just from this video. You can take points from this video, but also do research in your area. Just say, California is highly regulated. I don't know what's more regulated in California, maybe New York or Hawaii in the US. Company-wise, I don't know, but you want to do, even if you're in some small town, you want to do all your research. Don't just take it that this video's words are gold. It may change tomorrow, and if I don't see it, I'm not going to update anything on it. So even if you're seeing it the day of this video being posted, just do your research. Sole proprietorship, LLC, S Corp, what works best for you? What would make you more money? What would make it easier on you? What would save you from paying more taxes on the legal road? And you can weigh your options. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But I would recommend that y'all go to either a CPA for those questions or a business lawyer. I'll answer them to the best of my own knowledge, but they're not going to be legal words of advice or CPA's words of advice, because I can't legally do that. So I can say what I've done and why I chose this road, but I'm not going to be able to legally say do this, because that's not my area to say. I'm not a legal professional in that field. If I do something, if it's a mistake, I'm messing up myself, not you. So if y'all have questions on why I did something, I can explain why I did it, but I will not say it is advice to do it, because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm not trying to get in trouble here. But the LLC, it costs a lot less to start. You have more room to wiggle around management-wise. You don't have to have bylaws. You don't have to have extra rules and regulations. You don't have to have the inspections. Whereas S Corp, I have to file quarterly different things, such as the quarterly report saying what's going on, what the plan is, all kinds of stuff that I have to create bylaws. And it's not just one piece of paper. It's going to be stacked papers. They're going to be bylaws saying what the company's doing, what the officers are going to elect to do, which officers are going to be me. It's me, myself, and I. It's not written like that, but it's pretty much that. I kind of had some fun filing out the paperwork for an S Corp, because you have to write out the president, treasurer, and the secretary. So I filled those out. There was all me. The directors, well, I put myself on there as director because, again, I'm the only one in the company. I own 100% of the stock. As it's going to be formed, I will be the 100% owner. And so it said directors, and I put myself in. But if you think about it, a board of directors is not one person. So I went down again on LegalZoom, director number 2, and I put myself. And I got to thinking before I clicked the next page, well, what if I have 2 different ideas? I like this idea and that idea. If I have 2 board of directors, both myself, and I'm arguing with myself, who's going to be a tiebreaker? So I went and put a 3rd director. So me, myself, and I are the board of directors. So I have 3 of myselves arguing on different points. It was more for just getting a kick out of it, having some fun with it, and anything else. But y'all don't have to do that stuff. I was just having some fun, just getting a hoot out of it, because why not? Board of directors is 3 of me, because 1 of me is not a board. 2 of me, there's 50-50. You got to break the vote somehow. Got to have 2 to 1, so that means there's got to be 3 of me. So there's now 3 directors, and it's just having some fun with it. But I thought y'all would find that funny, get a hoot out of it. But again, look up for yourself. If there's anything that I can answer, that's the reason why I did it this way, or why I didn't choose something else, I'll be more than happy to answer it, but it won't be legal advice. I would recommend y'all either go to an attorney or a CPA or a tax consultant for those kinds of questions for advice. But I will be putting extra things on here for the S Corp. LLC was a really good route, but S Corp for me was just going to be so much better in the long run. Initially, it does cost a lot more. It does sting the wallet, and I do want that out. It's gonna sting a little bit, but it will help in the long run.